Do you think it's the same thing, that essentially political decision-making has trumped clinical research?
Yes, I do. And I think maybe I thought I'd take a step back. I'm sure others will cover the science of it all, but I thought I'd just give a bit of comparison with other campaigns and how issues tend to come to the fore in the political world. I think for many individuals, whatever the injustice is, a lot of individuals, when they suffer an injustice, whatever it is, they feel it's really obvious and they wonder why politicians can't see it. And they think it's so obvious, why can't something change immediately, particularly when I'm giving you the answer? And I guess what I would say is, as an MP, you often see thousands of people who are all shouting their obvious injustice at you. And you have to kind of see the wood for the trees and work out which ones are more important and which ones can be solved easily. And I do think there is a tendency in Westminster, in the political world, when there are so many issues being thrown at you, I think it's too easy for politicians to say, well, actually, I'm going to do the easy wins, deal with the issues that matter to the most number of people, because that will get me the most number of votes. So if you're focusing on the big issues where you can affect most people most of the time, you're going to be talking about big issues like GPs and dentists and hospitals and all these kind of things. And actually, some of these issues that only affect a relatively small number of people often go by the wayside. Now, there are campaigns that I've been involved with, like the cladding campaign and the campaign on access to care homes, which were similar kind of campaigns where it was a relatively small number of people who were involved, but the scale and deepness of the injustice was so severe that it managed to penetrate that Westminster bubble and managed to get onto people's agendas. Now, the reason I draw the comparison with the care home example is because, we now had this problem in 2020 where protections have been put around care homes to protect the people in the care homes, but those protections were so severe, it ended up feeling for the people in the care homes like they were in a prison. And many people started to die because of neglect. And I think there is an incredibly stark comparison with the situation that we're in right now. Effectively, people who are shielding because they're immune compromised or they're immune suppressed have been left with no option but to shield. Now, this morning, we had a briefing with Robert Jenrick, the minister. It's not Steve Barclay anymore, I'm afraid, James. Your slow news have to speed up a wee tad to keep you on top of the reshuffles. He did write the letter, you're right, yeah. It's quite a lot of churn these days in politics. But we had the briefing this morning, and there was lots of talk about, there could be some antibody testing and we could start it on a few people and we couldn't, maybe we'll roll it out next year. And I just said, there was a point at which we were delivering 1 million jabs a day in this country. We were delivering 1 million jabs a day. Why can't we just do antibody testing for 500,000 people in the next 7 days? Right? This should be possible. And so the question comes down to the same question that was raised a minute ago, which is why isn't it happening? And I think there's probably 2 or 3 different reasons. One potentially is a cost question. I think that's definitely one of the factors. It always is for government. The second is I think this has really fallen down the list of priorities for the government. At one point in time, we had a minister for vaccines, right? And that's all they did. They were just in charge of vaccines. We don't have that anymore. The person in charge of vaccines is also in charge of public health and lists about 10 different things. So it's really fallen down the list and doesn't have the same attention that it did have. And the third, which I really worry about, is, and it's only been suggested to me, so this is just a suggestion that I'll put out there, there does seem to be this focus on making sure that somehow we're on top of the science somehow and that we've got better science than other countries. And in the process of trying to make sure that we've got the best science possible, we're actually sacrificing people's lives. I mean, that's really what's going on. And the idea that you can treat people as guinea pigs in this process, I think fundamentally is immorally wrong. People are trying to live their lives and they can't, and the government have it in their gift to fix it.